Hello, and welcome to the Journey of Grief, Becoming Us Without Them. My name is Barbara Field. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in trauma, addiction, attachment, and grief. And I created this channel so that people who are grieving losses could hear the voices of other people who are grieving losses, maybe some therapists talking about grief so they could consider that they too can find a lovely therapist to work with. And mostly just to normalize it so that everyone knows you're absolutely entitled to grief, however and whenever you do, and that your story is perfect exactly the way that you tell it. And so today I've invited Tonya Fasenko to tell us her story of grief. And so, Tonya, how about if you introduce yourself and tell us what you would like us to know about you?
Hi, my name is Tanya Fasenko, and I am actually here to talk about my stepdaughter. She was a very important part of my life. She came into my life when she was about 11 years old. Came and lived with me and her dad, so we were really close. She was a big part of my life. She got in a car accident when she was 18, and she broke her back and lost 18 inches of her intestines. And due to that, she was put on a lot of pain medication. That is where her story started to change. She did get addicted to those pain meds. And unfortunately, that led to bigger addictions. She spent a few years struggling, and then she decided to go to treatment, which was a wonderful choice. She left the state, she left everyone that she knew, and she got herself clean. She came back and she went to school. She was going back to be a nurse, something she'd wanted to do for a long time. Favorite in her class, our teacher actually never wrote letters about students and wrote her a letter about how amazing she was. She was going places. She was really going places. And um, she had that addiction. So she went away and she got this treatment and she was clean and doing everything good. And then she got this modeling gig and she was beautiful. Yulia was one of the most beautiful people you've ever seen. And she went on this modeling gig in Florida. And she was supposed to be coming back and spending New Year's with us. And she didn't quite make that. The girls there were doing drugs and they talked her into using again, and she did. And being clean for so long and not knowing the drugs where she was at in that state, um, somebody gave her fentanyl, and Yulia, along with 8 other girls, died that night. It's hard for me to talk about because honestly, I don't talk about it. And I've never seen a therapist about it to this day. She died in 2017 and I can't talk about it without crying. Um, I don't know if you ever really get over that. She wasn't my child by birth, but she was my child. And we were really close. It it changed a lot of things about me. I think that prior to that, I was a lot more open. I was a much more open parent. I think it changed how I parented my last child because I became kind of a helicopter parent. And so it also affected her. She didn't get to do a lot of the things and experience a lot of things in life because I was just too afraid that she would also get affected by it. So yeah, it was really hard. It was hard because she died in another state, and it's really hard to get somebody back. So it made it extra hard. Um, they had to cremate her, so we didn't get to see her one last time. I think that it changed everybody in my family, and we are all still affected by it by this day. I think things my youngest daughter, I think her life would be a lot different if she had her older sister here. And I think they would have been really close. They were so much alike. And she struggles now too because she, that was going to be her weekend with her big sister. And she was so angry. She's like, she's supposed to be here with me. And, so I think it affected her too. Losing a child is hard. You don't ever get over it. Christmas, you see all the things you would have bought for them. Um, yeah, some people would think I should be probably over it by now, but I don't think that there's a wrong way to grieve, and I don't know if you ever really get over it. Sometimes a song comes on the radio, and it just reminds me of her, or something I see that I would have bought for her, or that she would have enjoyed, or Gabby says something and it comes out just like Yulia. There's little moments that just bring back that sadness. So, yeah, that's my story.
Yeah. So kind of talk about that. So a lot of us who have these massive losses think we're going to be perfectly fine and we just need time to get over it. So talk a little bit about that thought process then over the years and now of whether to get some therapy or not get some therapy. The stories like you should be over this and you're just weak. And what are the stories that you tell yourself about your journey?
I don't think it makes me weak. I think it makes me human. And I don't think that there's any right or wrong way. I don't think the grieving ever stops. It might change. It changes. It becomes less often. Um, and you do get stronger. And there's times I can talk about it a little without crying, but there's times where you can't, because how do you? That was such a big part of your life. And she should be having children and be getting married, and her siblings are having children now, and they should know their aunt. And she was just such a good human, and she had so much to live for, and just one mistake, I know she didn't mean it, and she might have lived, but the people that she was with, they were too scared, so they didn't call for help until it was too late. And then, of course, being drug addicts, once they died, they just basically took everything she had there, robbed her. So made it even more demoralizing. Yeah.
And so say more about that whole process of having to try to work with the authorities and like, and
Yeah.
it's not like you're rich and famous, right? So you don't have money to hop on a private jet and go to Florida. So you're sort of really trapped in your choices by the amount of
Yeah,
money you were to spend solving the problem.
exactly. Like, first we had to raise money to so essentially you have to have two funerals. You have to hire two funeral homes. You had to find a funeral home in Florida, and then they had to cremate the body before they could send it home. So that had to happen there. And then it was just a matter of identifying a body over a phone, right? Because you can't be there. And that was really hard. Because you didn't get to see it. You didn't get to see that. So I feel like in the back of your head, you think maybe it wasn't really her. Maybe something happened and she had to go under police protection, right? And this is just a big story. Like, you don't, there's always those silly things in the back of your head you wish for, right? Um, there wasn't that full closure, I guess. So sometimes you wish in the back of your head she's gonna come through the door. Um,
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
yeah.
Everyone does that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then, like, And then once you got the ashes were here, and then deciding what to do with that, how
Yeah, so you had to have a
before.
funeral, and then do you keep them here? And there's different, Yulia was, her parents were, her biological mom and dad were from Russia, so they have different, beliefs as far as that goes. And there wasn't any like taking some ashes home. If we wanted to, but like then we had a fight with his ex-wife and it just wasn't worth it. So, she is here and she's not too far away, but yeah, then you have to, she's not here. And it took a lot of, I had to find a way to process that. My way I found, I built a garden. I built a beautiful garden. I wasn't really a gardener before that, but I built her a garden, and just put like butterflies that light up at night on the fence. And every year I add a butterfly. I like the solar butterflies. And so that was one thing. Someday I want to get a tattoo. We were going to get matching tattoos, like peacock feathers on our foot. So someday I want to get that done for her. Um, you just try to remember them and you try to honor them, and you try to remember the good that they did. And she just had the kindest heart. And I'll never forget, you meet somebody and you're the step parent, and, you're never going to be the person that they want in their life. But Yulia was just so accepting of me. And we loved each other, and she was like a daughter to me. So it really affected me a lot. Yeah.
And what did support look like for you? Were there people that were helpful?
Well, I have a great family. My children and my mother, and um, there's a lot of therapy in my life, but it's not for me. So I live vicariously through my husband's therapist and my daughter's therapist. Kind of soup on their time sometimes. But that's mostly just because I work a lot. My schedule doesn't really allow traditional therapy. So I did try it for a little while. I just didn't have the time. I know now that there's a lot more options for online, and you could do things at night. So it started to be better, more options for you. But that wasn't there, a whole lot when she passed. So.
And how about you and her dad? How has this journey, how have you guys traveled this path together?
Yeah, so it was very difficult for my husband. Again, this was his first daughter, his first child. Um, so yeah, it was really hard for him too, but we really just kind of held each other together. I did find a good way. I learned through a lot of the therapists, a lot of their recommendations was, go to Duluth and see the rose garden, and go to the nature centers and walk and be outside. And I did always find that to be really healing. And so I decided to make my own little nature center, and I bought 5 acres of property and built some trails, put up some cameras and some campers, and I call it my happy place. And it's where we go to recharge. And um, after shortly after that, or not, well, like recently, my stepdad passed away, and that was pretty traumatic. And so my mom put a camper up there, and now we've got her up there, and that's her happy place. And it's I do think nature is very healing, and just going places and looking at the beauty, and like the rose gardens. And yeah, it helps. It helps. I would definitely recommend that to anybody, even if you're not an outdoor person. It's super healing. Find that place. And
So you mentioned that your husband and your daughter were both in therapy. So it sounds like the family's kind of doing the grief work now.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, there's been other traumas throughout, that have caused them to get into the therapy. But like, yeah, that's another story with immigration and stuff. We could talk about that all day.
Because your
uh,
husband's not a citizen, right?
He's not. Yeah. Yeah. So we're kind of dealing with some other things on the back end too, um but that was like the big, that was a pretty big trauma when that happened, and so it's taken a long time to heal. I don't think you ever, like I said, really heal. It gets better, it gets easier. The times get further apart when you cry, but it doesn't go away. People say it gets better over time, but or goes away. It doesn't go away. It never goes away. Don't ever think that, because it won't.
I
But you
think
don't really want it to, right? Because you don't want those memories to go
that's
away.
right. But I think the only people who tell you it goes away over time are people that have never actually lost anyone.
You're probably correct there.
Yeah, so what's the most supportive for you now?
Well, I've got for me is just having my family close. I do have her brother, Simon, my stepson, who just had his second baby, so he's made us grandparents. Just knowing that, like, I see in the resemblance, and knowing that she's here with us, right, in so many other ways. And that's good to know. It's good to know that we have a good family, and I think that it probably saved my kids from drugs, to be honest. That was probably one good thing that came out of it. Her siblings were always so scared of drugs that they decided they weren't going to do them. So I think that was like one good thing, I suppose, that came out of it, right? Like, you don't want to die. Yeah, I don't know. The good is, just the moments that we see her still here, and we know that she's still watching, right? So.
And does your family formally commemorate her? Some cultures have like set times, like a week, a month, a year. Does your family celebrate the anniversaries or the birthdays or?
Oh, her birth. I mean, yeah, we bring her flowers on her birthday, and like I said, once a year, on her death day, I buy something for her garden. Usually, so I like solar. It's the solar powered butterflies. I don't know why I was drawn to those. So I just kind of add something with a solar powered butterfly, whether it's on my fence or a stake in the garden or whatever. So, yeah, no, we definitely celebrate those moments for sure. You can't forget them,
And how about the siblings? Are you able to talk with them along the way, or how did each of them find their way through this?
Oh. Yeah, the older ones obviously did better. But there were Yulia, being the fashionista that she was. Her and Stephanie bonded over their makeup. She taught her how to do her hair and her makeup, and so those are the moments she really misses. And the clothes, she was everything was so stylish, and those are the moments that when I wish I had her here for Gabby to like teach her those sort of things. She missed out on a lot of that kind of stuff. Um, they're strong. My kids are so really, really strong, uh, nurses and therapists, and maybe that's kind of part of how they cope with it. I don't know. But I guess at least they chose better lives, and they were all too afraid to do those bad things. So that was good. We didn't have to deal with a lot of that. Because I think that would have just been even worse to have to see it again,
That is interesting. They are all in the helping professions.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. They all turned out to be, amazing kids, and that helps. That helps. I think that their healing professions help all of us, right? So if I'm having a bad day or something's going wrong, I'll call my kid. And so that's good. I mean, I have that too, I guess, sort of free therapy through the child.
So, always at the end of these videos, I ask people like, what is your 1 minute wisdom? Like if everyone ignored everything else in this entire video and walked away with this one thing, what would you want people to know the last most important thought for people about dealing with this kind of experience?
Oh, just, you know, take it one day at a time. Don't don't try to rush your grieving or take anyone else's opinion, because you're going to do it your own way, and whatever way you do it is right. It's right for you, and that's all that matters. And um I won't say it gets better, but you'll get through it. uh, just be strong, be there. If you have other kids, you got to be strong for them, because if they see you fall apart, that's just no good. um Hang in there, find something to do, find something positive to do. I'm always thinking in the back of my head about what I can do to honor her. And someday I'm going to do something like, I don't know. I always have all these, like, I want to open up something where I get donations for women for the Alexander House, which is a battered women's shelter here. Find something that I can do with her name and her honor. That's always been kind of in the back of my mind, and something that I know I'm going to do someday. Honor them, don't forget them. And if someone you love dies from addiction, like, that's the hardest part, is like the judgment and the comments that you'll hear outside. I'll hear people making comments about, oh, they were just a drug addict, not necessarily about her, about other people. And then in the back of my head, I'm going, if only you knew my story, you'll hear things like that and they'll hurt. But don't let that get to you, because it's a sickness and it's an addiction, and nobody chooses that, and nobody chooses to die from it. And I'm sure that anyone who does wishes they could come back. So just, hang in there. Hang in there. Cry when you need to, laugh when you need to. You'll get through it.
Okay. Thank you so very much for doing this. That was very brave of you to tell us your story, and especially on YouTube. And so I'm going to stop the recording, and thank you so much.
Thank you.